Good afternoon. You're listening to My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm your host, Jasmine Urbina, here in the studio today with my dad and co-host, Alex Urbina. And today we are going to be talking about how to have an extraordinary Thanksgiving. But first, I want you, Dad, to kind of try to specify what that really means, because I think every Thanksgiving is probably extraordinary to everybody.
Well, exactly. Again, we're the meaning maker to our experience. So if we think that something is good, great, or extraordinary, we don't know the difference until we've had something that's even more extraordinary. So again, it just depends on, what level, at what capacity you're able to experience a deeper and more fulfilling feeling of joy, appreciation, gratitude. And for me, doing personal development work on myself and being in my own journey for the last 25 years, I've noticed that I can go deeper and deeper every time. I'm always figuring out how to reinvent myself and learning how to open myself up to have even more deeper and more meaningful experiences. And so that's the purpose of the show, is to open up possibilities for people to really kind of question themselves and look at themselves and evaluate themselves, to keep saying, how can I have a more deep and meaningful experience with the people that I love the most? And so I wrote down some tips to really help people kind of get them to the next level.
Yeah, and you were saying it's an opportunity for people to kind of look at themselves, but I think in general, Thanksgiving is already kind of like that, in the sense that, at least for me, because I'm young, I have aunts that I haven't seen in a long time, or cousins I haven't seen in a while, and they're asking me what I'm doing, and I have to kind of take a deep look at myself, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm still working at the same place, or I'm still going to school, or, and you kind of are like, man, why are they always asking me all these questions? And I know there's a lot of jokes like on social media that are kind of, they're funny because they're relatable for us. And I think in general, it's already a really good way to kind of take a look at your life, because people are asking you about it.
And I think it's, Thanksgiving seems to be a symbol for permission to catch up. It's a symbol for permission to reconnect, or to open myself up and let you in, and really kind of strengthen our bond and remember, how special each other is, and how grateful we are for each other and the experience that we get to share with each other.
So what's number one?
So what I did was I broke down all the different tips and the advice into two different categories. So the first segment, before we go on a break, I want to talk more about the being. Who are you going to be, and have you more mindful about who you're being when you're at Thanksgiving, rather than what it is you're going to do. And then I figured after the break, when we come back, I'll talk a lot more about the doingness and maybe give some tips, some ideas. If you go online, or if you look for different, articles or blogs, a lot of times people speak in the doingness, like do this, or the top 20 things to do to have Thanksgiving be special. But as you've known, if you've listened to the show for quite a while, you notice a lot of what we talk about is the beingness and the essence and the magical ingredients of our spirit and our soul, to be able to connect with people, to cause those amazing experiences. Because you can have the top 10, 20 things to do at a certain event and still not experience the joy and experience a deep, meaningful relationship, or having the happiness and the excitement that it takes, because you could be not opening yourself up and allowing the beingness to come in and take over that experience. So I'm going to start off with the beingness. So the first thing I wrote down was, take responsibility for your own experience. Don't expect other people to contribute, partake, or co-create in the experience with you or for you. You're it. If you want to have a great time at a party, you are the party. You're going to have to bring your excitement. You're going to bring your joy. You're going to bring the fun, the playfulness into the party, and then you're going to have to give it away. So the first thing is, take responsibility for the experience, all your experiences. But more importantly, if you want to have an amazing experience at Thanksgiving, take responsibility for it. Don't expect somebody else to entertain you. Don't expect someone else to please you, or to engage, or to ask you questions, or to make you feel like you're part of, or that you're special. You're going to have to show up to the party with the intention that, I'm owning the experience tonight or today.
Yeah, and I think one for kids is that we kind of get, like I said, like almost bombarded with questions from relatives and everything, but it kind of seems like they're relatives we don't see at all, like until Thanksgiving or Christmas time comes around. So one of the things that I would say as a parent, if you're watching your teen and they're kind of, sitting there while their aunt's talking to them with this blank stare on their face, maybe setting them up to win in a sense beforehand. Hey, your Aunt Carol's coming and she's probably going to ask you about this, and I don't know why, but I remember being so in high school, just being so, even now, because I'm still kind of in that same space, but being so like, oh, I got to avoid this person, when they come in, just say hi and then go to my room until food's ready or something like that. And, but maybe setting your kids up to say, hey, you know what, this is part of being a family and this is part of, our relationship, and you don't really know Aunt Carol. Maybe she wants to get to know you, so maybe try a little bit harder or something.
That's actually great insight, to prep your kids, because most kids, if they're insecure in themselves or they don't have a high self-esteem of themselves, they're looking at Thanksgiving as a chore, and they're looking at ways to try to find the quickest route to say hi and be cordial and then get back to their room and hide out. But as a parent, like you said, take the time to explain to your kids how Thanksgiving can be an opportunity to reconnect some of those bonds and to utilize it as a way to practice being connected to other people, because that's going to be a valuable tool you're going to need in the world. When you get a job, when you're out in the world, you're going to have to really work at creating powerful relationships with people, especially if you want to be an entrepreneur. It's all about relationship building, and it's a great opportunity for you to practice that. Number 2 I wrote down was, in addition to bringing food, drinks, and all the games to the party, give yourself permission and be mindful of bringing the beingness. Like I started off the show, is really looking at, who am I going to be today? Who do I need to focus on being to be able to have the experience that I'm yearning for? So if it's gratitude or connectedness that you're searching for, or if you're looking to experience more love or acceptance or joy, then you have to decide to be that. Before you get up in the morning or take a shower, we have to have that intention that today's going to be a great day because I'm going to be loving, I'm going to be accepting, I'm going to be forgiving, or I'm going to be playful, or just decide I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to be the joy that this party gets to have. And if you declare yourself that and you're focused on being that, you will become it within the hours and throughout the whole day and on into the rest of the night. You're almost like the permission for everyone else to be able to jump in and be a part of your joy and your happiness.
Yeah, there's always that one person who comes over and they kind of just lighten up the whole mood and everyone's so excited and everything. And
yeah, but instead of waiting for you to invite that person you're hoping that they accept it and say, yes, I'm coming. Decide that you're it, that you have your own joy and your own happiness, and that you can create a safe environment and invite people to be a part of that. All right, number 3. I didn't mean to cut you off. Number 3 is decide that you'll be creating the experience that you want from the day. And don't live in the illusion that it's just going to fall out of the sky, or because it is Thanksgiving, it's just automatically going to happen, or that someone else it's their job to create it for you. Tell your ego to take the day off, because your ego will not want you to open up. Your ego's job is to keep you safe. It's to keep you protected. Your ego's job is to not let you be vulnerable or not share as much. So you need to tell your ego on Thanksgiving Day when you wake up, hey, I'm giving you a pass to go and count, the dots on the ceilings or the tiles on the floor. Give your ego something to do so that you bring your authentic self, you bring your spirit to the Thanksgiving Day, so you can allow yourself to connect with people.
When you were describing, decide that you're going to be the one who's going to create the experience, I kind of imagine, I think a lot of people, when they get invited to Thanksgiving dinner, they expect the host to put on the show and do everything, and you just come along and you bring your presence, and that's enough. And it is, I think, to a certain extent, it's enough to bring your presence and your beingness when you are that high energy person and you are the person that everyone wants to be around, and you contribute and you converse with family and everything. But if you're not, and you're just someone who's along for the ride, it kind of seems unfair that every year you go to so-and-so's house for Thanksgiving just to be there for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and if you are the one that doesn't have that kind of personality, that outgoing type of personality, you don't get the right to say, well, because I don't have that kind of personality, I get to sit back and wait for those that do have it to entertain me, for those that feel comfortable enough, talking in a room or connecting, or they're good at breaking the ice. I'm going to put the responsibility and the burden on them to come to me and open me up so that we can have, an amazing Thanksgiving. You have to be willing to really decide that you're creating all the moments, every moment you're creating. So if I'm conscious enough in this moment to realize on this show that I'm creating this moment that I'm having here with you, I'm also conscious enough to realize that I'm actually co-creating it with you. So I'm creating a space for you to contribute. And what I'm doing is I'm deciding to light myself on fire so that you look at that and you go, oh, I want to light myself on fire too. And before you know it, we're both lighting ourselves on fire. So when you go to Thanksgiving, don't literally light yourself on fire, like have the turkey blow up, but like think about it inside. Like I get to turn on my own heart light. I get to spark it, and then let the joy and the passion and the excitement come from within, so that it gives other people permission to join in, and we can co-create an extraordinary relationship and experience for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and another thing, I again, because I'm mostly of my whole life I've been the kid at Thanksgiving, so I'm just going to keep bringing that experience. And one of the things is I would get annoyed that some of my family wouldn't see me all year, and then they would just come over for Thanksgiving, because in our family we kind of host Thanksgiving usually. And so when they would just come over and kind of just sit there, not that they weren't doing anything or contributing or adding to the space, it just seemed like every year they would come and sit in the same chair and not contribute. And to me that was frustrating, because I would be in the kitchen with my mom and my grandma slaving away, and they just show up right at 5:00 at dinner time. And that to me it was kind of like a diss or like a punch in the face, like, oh, we don't, I'm just here for the dinner. I don't talk to you all year round, but I'll come and eat this great dinner that you've prepared all day.
Right, but you're clear that you're making up that story. That's not really what's happening. What's really happening is they're being invited to your house. They come to your house. They have all their own doubts, their own fears, their own insecurities, their own unconsciousness that's getting in the way of them feeling safe enough to be able to open up and share. If you notice, in Thanksgiving, it's kind of awkward for some people when they come into the home, but all of a sudden, right around 7, 8, 10 o'clock at night, 11, all of a sudden people start opening up. It's just part of human nature. So if you know that some of your family members are kind of doing the same thing, or you got some walls up, or they're playing it, slow, or kind of hanging out, be the invitation, invite them to come out, be engaging, ask them questions, see if you can kind of chip away at that wall so that wall comes down, and they realize quicker rather than later on that they're in a safe environment, that their heart and everything that they're going to share with you is safe and sacred, and you're not going to hurt them, and that they feel safe enough to share and contribute in that co-creating of that relationship.
So do you think, as the host, that it's your job or something that you should be considering doing, or it just goes for everybody?
It goes for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're the host or not the host. You're responsible for your own experience at Thanksgiving, whether you're going to someone's house or they're coming to your house. Be responsible for creating your own experience, but you got to remember, your own experience, there's other people that are playing a part of it. So instead of trying to force people to interact with you, or try to make them or manipulate them or fear them, or especially your kids, you can't make your kids have a good time, and you're not going to make them. But what you can do is you can invite them. You can inspire them. You can influence them. You can empower them. And you do that by questions. You ask them open-ended questions. You allow yourself to be playful and loving and vulnerable. And then what you do is slowly, a little bit at a time, you're kind of reeling them in, asking them to help you take the trash out or carve the turkey. You're inviting them to partake in it. And it's a little bit of it's a journey that you have to embark on, minute by minute, hour by hour, until all of a sudden you look around, it's 8 p.m. and your son, who normally goes and hides out in the room, is right there engaged, talking to grandpa and playing games, and you're sitting back realizing that you helped him co-create that experience because you invited him throughout the day, a little bit at a time, until he felt safe enough. If you don't have that mindset, or you're not mindful of that, and you're not giving yourself permission to invite him at that level, then what's going to happen? He's slowly just going to die out and fade underneath all the noise, and just probably head out into his room. And then you're going to be there wondering, one more time, how come my son doesn't want to engage into this beautiful experience that we have here. The next thing is be a warm. So we're talking about beingness. So give yourself permission to be a warm, open, loving invitation for other people to engage with you. If you notice that if people are standoffish or they're not sharing as much, or they're real short, you have to be willing to look at yourself and ask yourself, who am I being or who am I not being that this person doesn't feel safe enough yet to be able to open up and engage with me at a higher level. So I want you to give yourself permission to really look at what are the fundamental ways of being that helps people feel safe enough to open up with you. And normally that's being warm and open, loving, and also being an invitation. When I say being an invitation as a way of being, what do you think of?
I kind of imagine somebody just kind of, with arms wide open, and also being whatever they're looking for from you, being that way first, so that you say, oh, okay, if they're like that, then it's okay for me to be like that.
Yeah, you're showing up in a certain way that then they look at that, they go, okay, it's okay for me to put this wall down. Or if they're light and playful, and because people, you gotta remember, sometimes people show up to a party, especially at Thanksgiving, with hidden agendas that they're unconscious of, that they don't realize. Like Uncle Buck might have borrowed $50 from you 2 months ago that never paid you back. So he's walking in with his wall up guarded, expecting you to ask him for the money. And you got all kinds of people that walk in with their agendas. They walk in with their insecurities and all that. You got to be mindful of that. So the way that you show up in your beingness has to let them know subconsciously that, oh, he's not going to hit me up for the money. Today is a day that we just get to enjoy each other, and so then now his wall comes down. Or someone else has their stuff, and when they come in, based on your warm, open, loving invitation, spewing out of you, they're going to feel safe enough to put their guard down or leave their hidden agendas aside and really kind of engage with us. And then here are some of the benefits I wrote by you giving yourself permission to be those things. Some of the benefits are you can create deep, meaningful conversations when you're being open, loving, and being an invitation. Some of the other benefits is that you can even possibly have physical connections. Hugs, kisses, hand-holding, gentle, endearing, touches with your kids or your aunt or your mom. Thanksgiving is like a symbol for, let's reconnect. And what a great way to, have your mom, you're done with dinner and you get to reach over the table and grab her hand and just say, hey, I missed you. It's been a long time and I really appreciate you. And, or just walking by, you got your brothers in there, he's helping mom, cook the mashed potatoes, and you come around, put your hand on his shoulder and go, hey, bro, what are you up to? Little things like that. Those are powerful gestures. Physical touch is a very powerful way to make a statement that sometimes we don't have the courage to say, but those little gestures are very important. I think we overlook that a lot of times.
Yeah, I think in our family, we're pretty affectionate, so I don't see us having a problem with, connecting on that level. But I do know that just off of family and friends and being around their families in general, they're not really like that. Not every family is affectionate. Not every family hugs or says, I love you. And in our family, we don't walk out the house without saying, okay, bye, I'm leaving, love you, or, and so it's a different experience to see that. And I think it would be pretty magical for us, whatever's next for us, whatever hugs and kisses and that affectionate looks like for us to take it to the next level, because we're already kind of there.
But I don't know if you know this or not, but we weren't always like that. I haven't always been so affectionate. When I didn't decide to start being affectionate until after I had my transformational training and had my awakening. I was the one that decided that from this point forward, I want to start being affectionate. I want to be able to say, I love you, and really mean it. In fact, in my family, it was taboo to say I love you. We didn't say I love you for some reason, and we didn't hug. It wasn't until I was 23 years old when I went home one day after having this powerful awakening, when I gave my mom a hug and I told her I love her eye to eye, and she goes, oh, son, I love you too. And I remember looking at her going, yeah, no, I don't, because we don't communicate it. It's not, we have to be willing to communicate it and show the affection, because that's what gives love real meaning, like real experience. And so what I decided to do along with your mom is to start a new tradition in our family, and the bigger family, and you guys, was to start saying I love you. It was a commitment that we both made, is that every time we leave or every time we see each other, we're going to hug and say I love you. And you don't know this happened because you were just born into it. We had already been practicing it, and so you are kind of born into that world. So when you say that, I wanted to remind you that had I not, or me and your mom not be willing to make that commitment and face our own fears and have that breakthrough, we could be one of those families that just assumed that the other person loved us, or that they knew that, you know, we loved them, and we might not have had that kind of experience.
Yeah, that's big eye opener, because like you said, I was born into this, and as long as I've known, we always say I love you, and I know that my friends kind of laugh because they'll I'll hang up the phone and be okay, bye mom, love you, and they're like, why do you have to tell your mom you love her? I don't know, I'm hanging up the phone. What if
I never see her again?
Yeah, what right? If so, and we're so used to that, and sometimes I'll hang up the phone with somebody else and I'll accidentally say it, like a friend, or even my boss, sometimes I'll say it on accident, and it's just because naturally.
Or a stranger.
That's
all
how
right, bye, I love you.
Yes, because bye, for me, bye is attached with I love you. So if I'm hanging up, I'm like, did I just tell my boss I love her?
Absolutely. All right, we're going to go on a break.
Oh, we had to take a break.
Yes.
Okay, stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.